Matrix program is being tested right now under the name Jade Helm 15. While the term eugenics is no longer used in the mainstream openly, the practice of eugenics is still around and stronger than ever. Jade Helm 15 exercises the next generation of technology in the political domination arena. It is simply another technological step beyond the Cold Springs Harbor Research Facility's biometrics program or Thomas J. Watson's census of Germany. And their disciplines developed during the eugenics heyday in the early 20th century are still being practiced and advanced today. Mandatory toxic vaccines, abortion, family courts, contaminated water, and of course biometrics are just a few of the branches that grew out of the original eugenics trunk, still present and dominating over our society today. In 2010, the GeoInt Symposium, an annual geointelligence, geospatial, and activity-based intelligence conference, held a presentation entitled Mastering the Human Domain. Geospatial intelligence and human geography were the main talking points. Jade Helm is born and begins to take form. The human domain encompasses the totality of the physical, cultural, and social environments that influence human behavior, explained Admiral McRaven. Success in this domain won't be achieved by traditional ground, naval, or air forces. Instead, success in the human domain will depend upon understanding the human terrain and establishing trust with those individuals who occupy that space.
The goal is to see if groups of these special forces can move around the civilian population without being noticed, blend in so they can place themselves in strategic positions.
McRaven continued by saying, building understanding of the human domain requires boots on the ground, feeding information into the network. A living active map where human beings are movable real-time landmarks and everyone's personal thoughts, feelings, medical information, belief systems, history, basically every shred of information about the individuals in any region on that map will make up the terrain. When mastering the human domain, the special operators are the masters. They are the key that turns this whole machine on. And regardless of whether the military calls this project Activity-Based Intelligence, ABI, geospatial intelligence coupled with human domain analytics, what we are looking at is a nexus between private tech firms, homeland security and law enforcement, domestic surveillance, and the domestic use of special forces. How is any of this legal? How is any of this not a violation of the Fourth Amendment? A tech startup, Recorded Future, that uses a system of filtering through and classifying open source data, demonstrated their predictive analytics capability during the 2012 GeoInt conference. Trajectory magazine reports, the concept is to find people who are talking about the future. Vice President for Recorded Future, Matt Kodima, says, we can basically roll back the clock. We know that this particular did happen in this time at this place. Now let's go back a week before that and look at the publications. Who was predicting that accurately? Who wasn't? Add this layer of predictive analytics on top of the other human domain analytic, and you begin to get an idea of the scope and range of the overarching, inescapable control grid these scientific controllers are constructing. At the same GeoInt conference in 2012, Jeff Jonas, the chief scientist for IBM Entity Analytics and an IBM fellow, talked about the potential for open source data utilization. He said, in typical IBM tradition, space, time, travel data is the ultimate biometric. It seems that IBM, in the scientific elite's perspective, shifted from the master race to mastering the human domain. So we probably won't see doors kicked in and military trucks shipping political opponents to their demise during this summer's Jade Helm 15 military procedure. However, as Brzezinski states in Between Two Ages, the technotronic era involves the gradual appearance of a more controlled society. Just like Watson's census was not the end sought by the Nazis, neither is Jade Helm 15 an end, but a means to a historically predictable end.
We must also be alert to the equal and opposite danger that public policy could itself become the captive of a scientific, technological elite. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
I just want to reiterate something that was very important. Near the end of the report, we had Jeff Jonas, chief scientist for the IBM Entity Analytics and an IBM fellow. What he said was, space-time travel data is the ultimate biometric. And of course, that's your metadata. That's what they've been telling us. Don't worry, we're not recording your phone calls and all your conversations. We're just getting some metadata. It's not any big deal. No, it is your biometric data. It is very personal. That activity-based intelligence is one of the key features that they're going to use to track you. It's one of the key enabling technologies. And we need to also understand the predictive nature of this and how dangerous that is. Remember, Nixon had his enemies list. That was considered to be pretty sinister at the time, and it was. The potential for abuse of that, and we did see abuse with that on a very small, limited scale. The potential for abuse with this now is for everyone in the country, not just for a few journalists or political leaders that are enemies of the president. It's for everyone. And are you an enemy or not? They're going to be doing this with predictive analysis. They're going to be profiling you personally by the things that you put on social media, by the groups and the people that you see. That is incredibly dangerous because that's the kind of profiling we saw in the massive purges of Joseph Stalin. Just rounding people up and killing them because they might be a potential threat at some point in time. And understand that all of these are connected. It is not the military doing something completely compartmentalized over here, law enforcement doing something over here, federal government doing something. They're all interconnected. Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, FBI, the Pentagon, and especially special forces. They are the tip of the spear on collecting biometric data. Well, that's our news for tonight. If you're watching